Now, I think that we could all agree here that Disney has had the absolute worst year throughout all of 2023, not just limited to the Disney stock hitting a decade low, but also due to the fact of the ongoing box office failures happening one after the other, especially with Indiana Jones 5, The Dial of Destiny. That was a big hit back in July, where box office numbers really began to come into the public view. Now, speaking about Bob Iger, we know that his second phase of the cost containment plan is going to go active by November to December of this year. That's going to lead into 2024. We talked about this. This second phase of the cost containment plan is going to involve hiring less actors and/or actresses with strong stardom power, and of course firing thousands of employees across the board. That ranges from the parks to the film industry aspects of the studios and Disney Plus content as well. And it doesn't stop there, it's even going to impact the corporate ladder. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. Now, we know that South Park joining the panderverse took a very big hit against Disney. They took multiple shots against the company, really kind of exposing the true nature of what Disney's all about, right? Now, we know that Bob Iger has no shame in lying to the public, to the shareholders, dragging and stringing them along throughout all of this year into next year about what their current plans are for the upcoming live-action reboots and the remakes, whatever have you, and it only gets worse. Let's get into all of this, shall we? Now, with Bob Iger currently going into full damage control for their upcoming Disney releases, one major development has to do with what was recently approved by Iger. Now, this crucial update has to do with their restructuring of the company to double down on their DEI agenda with all upcoming Disney live-action remakes. As it turns out, Disney is getting ready to drop a big announcement surrounding the live-action remake of Sword in the Stone that is going to support the concept of race-swapping some characters. Now, the current plan right now is to race-swap some of the main characters in that film, such as Madame Mim. The same concept will be applied to the upcoming Hercules live-action remake, where characters like Meg and Hades are already planned to come from different backgrounds, while they are fully planning to alter the story and background of Hercules by dropping the demigod storyline as a way to divert from source material to give fans a reimagining of that film. Now, guys, we touched on this months ago, that they are going to completely alter the story of Hercules, much like how they are altering the storyline of Snow White. That is now delayed, by the way. It is official until March of 2025. Now, there's a lot of things going into this that just goes to show you that Bob Iger and the board are relentless, and they do not care about ramifications, at least seemingly so, right? Now, at the same exact time, we also are very well aware about what they are currently doing with all of their Disney Plus material. They're going to be raising rates while also excluding and removing some movies and TV shows while raising those rates. And they think that's a good business move? I think not at all. That's only going to actually resolve with people leaving the platform and wanting nothing to do with that at all. So, moving onwards here. To make matters even worse, Alice in Wonderland 2010 is also getting rebooted with a complete diverse cast that was pushed by Bob Iger and the Disney Board of Directors. The announcement for Alice in Wonderland's reboot is planned to drop the first earnings call for 2024 that will also be a complete reimagining of the past film with Johnny Depp. This is where it gets really insane. This is said to be a big push by Disney to vanquish any memory of Johnny Depp's work with that film in order to create a new iteration of characters like Alice and the Mad Hatter, for example. Another reason why they are embracing a full-on Pirates of the Caribbean reboot. What's embarrassing for Disney, however, is that many of the live-action remakes will involve dialing back on roughly 25% of their budget compared to films like Snow White and the Little Mermaid to reduce spending on CGI and stardom power and to make these films smaller scaled with less cast and crew on set. Now again, by the way, we talked about this too, that a lot of these movies now coming out of Disney, it doesn't matter if it's Star Wars or if it's Marvel or just regular Disney remakes, everything is going to be smaller scale. And what that essentially means is that not only as far as who's working on the film, it's going to be smaller scale, but story-wise, it will be as well. Less locations, less places for the characters to travel to. They want to make things more contained. And I don't think it's going to work in the long run. You see, a lot of these Disney animated films, at the end of the day, they are fantasy films. They're adventure films. You have to have your characters going to multiple destinations and/or locations. And if you kind of confine that, it just does not work. And that's exactly what Bob Iger is trying to do to reduce spending, by backing off on CGI, backing off on multiple sets and all these different things, building less sets. It's gonna look bad throughout the remainder of, the 2020s, I would say. And speaking about this decade, this is where it gets even more intense. Let's discuss. Now, the plan by Disney is to reboot multiple live-action remakes for the remainder of this decade leading into 2030 to kickstart their new era of Disney live-action films. Iger and the board are also in the process of hiring directors and writers that support their DEI agenda in order to prevent creative differences down the road that could interrupt any level of production at any stage. This is Disney's desperate attempt to push for what they feel is much needed to change in the world and what they feel is right. Iger is also preparing to make more announcements related to this on November 9th, which is the last earnings call of this year, by giving the public and shareholders an update for confirming the cancellation of the Hunchback film. I don't know if you have been made aware about this, by the way, but there was going to be a Hunchback movie that is now fully canceled. They want nothing to do with it anymore because Disney felt that the character was going to offend a specific group of people. And this just goes to show you how PC Disney is becoming. They already have been, by the way. I'm not saying that they never were, but this is where you go to a next level of PC, to the point where it's damaging their brand or their brands, and it's also limiting their ability. Now look, Disney has been in this phase of just recycling material. They don't know how to make anything original anymore. It's all about reboots, remakes, sequels, etc. They can never successfully make something iconic anymore that is original. Frozen was really like a lightning in the bottle for them. I will say that much. But when you look at stuff like this for Disney, this is not going to work in the long run. It's not going to. So there's a lot of things that Iger really is getting wrong here. And we all knew when he was actually semi-retired, as I like to call it, when he left, or when he got fired, quote unquote, and Chapek took over, we all pretty much knew he was going to come back. Chapek was the fall guy. This is pretty much common knowledge if you really know how Disney works. And Chapek, at the end of the day, also was not a good fit for Disney. This is exactly why I call it the Battle of the Bobs. They both are equally bad, if not one worse than the other. That caused a lot of trouble for Disney as a company and the entirety of the studios that have been working on these movies and these TV shows. But I would like to hear your opinion on this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.